Fame and Fortune from Emberleaf Games is a dungeon crawler. Coming soon. There's a link down below for the Kickstarter. In this one, you can play in one of many different ways. You can do one versus many. You can do co-op, run an automated monster master. You can play PvP. You can discover all that in that link. I'm going to allow you to discover with me after the break kind of what's inside, kind of how to play, and then my thoughts. We are going to start off with the player's pieces. So each player is going to have this player board with a spot for their leader, 2 adventurers, an adventurer's pack that can be used with the potions expansion. You have a spot to place a spell. This is where your fame goes. This is where your fortune goes. So each person is going to start off with a leader. Here are your leaders. And then they each have an ability and another ability, kind of like the other cards will. So if we take a closer look here, so we have their name. Right here is their attack, then their range, how much health they have, their movement, and as you can see, they have these little wings at the back. This has no wings. This means that this can basically jump over enemies to move through their spaces, whereas this person cannot. And this final one is their carrying capacity in their pockets for their treasure. Now you're going to look up here, and this little purple one and this ability, you need to use an action to activate this. This bottom one is once the person becomes famous. This is always into effect, and I'll explain all that here in a little bit. But in addition to each leader having a card, as with all other cards, you also have their little character token that'll be getting put on the board to be used. You will also have this cool little thing here that will be tracking the actions you take. That is your action counter there. You will also be getting a Spirit Guardian piece that will be moving around on the board in different spaces. And then you'll have 2 characters as your adventuring party. So you have your Paladin, you have your Huntress, you have a Bard, you have the Rogue, you have a Monk, a Cleric, a Barbarian, a Druid, even more. Here we go. We have a Wizard, we have a Soldier, and then finally we have a Pirate. Now the cool thing about these character tokens comes into the other thing each player is going to have, and that is these 3 kind of hit mark tracker indicator icon things. So you are going to grab your token, and then these have 2 sides. They have a ridged side and a non-ridged side. You're going to take the non-ridged side, pop it on top, and then you'll see this arrow, and you're going to turn it until it is at the hit points that the character starts with, and then they're going to be going on the map like that to signify they are your characters. So that is the character pieces. Let's get into the main board and all of those pieces. So here we have the main board, and this is the tavern board. The tavern board is where you're going to be grabbing your adventurers from, so you're going to be having this display with multiple in each section, depending on how the setup went and who grabbed what from where. Then in this section, you'll see this little fortune symbol. So that is where you're going to be putting your fortune tokens. They do have 2 sides, a charged side and an uncharged side. Up here is your magic area. Here you are going to be putting the spells. We'll go over these in a little bit, and I'll show you all the spells. But your spells can go right up here. And then in addition, this is where you're going to be putting the multitude of status tokens that you'll be earning throughout the game. Over in this section, you'll see that symbol right there. That means that's where you're going to be putting the fame tokens, like so. And then down here is the crypt. The Monster Master will have their monsters down there, but in addition, you are going to have your scrying bones that you're going to be using to do attacks, which I'll cover as I explain briefly how to play the game in a little bit. Off to the side, you are going to be putting the seals that correspond for the Monster Master. There that is. And that is all of the main board components. Let me now show you what the Monster Master has. Alright, so this is the Monster Master board, and the Monster Master is going to be starting off with a leader, just like you had, and the leader is, for this instance, the Dragon King. So again, you'll see all the other same information, their attack, their range, their speed, and their pockets. It says X for health because health is set based on player count, and they of course still have abilities, and if they become famous, so the leader would just go in that spot. And then for theirs, they don't have character tokens. Instead, they have these sculpted minis. I'll just kind of show you an example of some of these. They also have the ring that will turn for their health, and they have the arrow right there. Here's an example of some of the other monsters you'll be facing. You have a basilisk, a vampire lord, undead pharaoh, a soul harvester, a vengeful spirit, a werewolf alpha, and then we're back to the basilisk. So let me just kind of show you just a few more minis. There's your basilisk. There's him. And as a reminder, these are prototype components. We got one more right here, and then we're going to end with the werewolf. Alrighty, and then very quick, I do want to show you the expansion with the potions. I'll show you what that all comes with. Alright, so with the potions, you have a potion board, and you are then going to also have this deck of potion cards that are going to have different abilities and happen at certain range or certain times. So there's an assortment of these, and then this is how much it's going to cost to get it. So you're basically going to have these shuffled up with 3 on display, and then that right there. And then in addition to that, there is a couple other cards. There is a leader that pertains with the potions at their abilities. You have another adventurer that you'll be putting in the adventurer pack that again deals with the potions. And finally, there will be a new monster, the alchemical ooze, that again, because you're using the potions, would pertain to that. So let me get the board set up here briefly, and I'm going to go over a very quick tutorial, not an in-depth, but to kind of give you an idea of how the game kind of progresses. Alright, we have the game set up with 2 adventurers. When you have 2 adventurers, there's a couple different ways you can play. You can play where you are cooperatively against the Dragon King, and the Dragon King can be in automated, or you can have a third player playing as the Monster Master. You also could do PvP or various other ways that if you check the link down below to look at the campaign, you can see all the ways that you can play. I'm going to explain more of the co-op and tell you kind of the differences as if that's an automa or AI, or if you are playing against someone playing as the Monster Master. So, first thing you're going to do is you're going to be building out your party, selecting a leader, and selecting 2 adventurers from the tavern, going around the table, each person selecting one. You're going to be grabbing their tokens, throwing your rings on them, and putting them on your summoning gate. You're going to be putting the spells up in the spell area. There are all your tokens, your fame, your fortune, and your scrying bones. Next, the Dragon King goes in there. You set up their dragon board with the Dragon King. You fill their pockets with fortune. Then they're going to start off with a monster. They choose where they want to put it in a color of a player playing. And then it is in the first summoning spot. You'll see the marks there. That is directly in line with their summoning circles over here. You are also going to put out the seals for the Dragon King on over here, and you'll be trying to seal those off as you play the game. And because he does start with those, he does start with 2 shield tokens on his card. based on these two seals right here. You then are going to begin the round. When you begin the round, each person's going to take their little Spirit Guardian Meeple, and they're going to move it to one of the rooms, which is going to trigger an in-round ability. If you come up here, you are going to be grabbing a spell. Here's an example of one. Grabbing a spell, throw it on your spell slot. You are also able to dispel a status effect that is on one of your characters. If you move over here, you are simply going to take a fame and put it down here in your fame slot. If you come down here, you are going to do the same thing, except with a fortune, and put it in one of the pockets of someone who has room. Finally, if you come over here, you are going to be grabbing a bone, and you'll be scrying an extra bone when you attack with everyone this turn. So each person is going to go in somewhere. If you both go to the same room, you both get an advantage status token, which will help you when you're scrying bones. If you are not playing with an automated Monster Master, the Monster Master player will then take their token and place it into a room that does not already have an adventurer in it. After everyone has done that, you go into the player rounds. You're going to start with the person to the left of the Monster Master. They're going to be taking 3 actions dispersed between their 3 adventurers how they like. You can repeat the same action, but an adventurer cannot do the same action twice. Your 3 actions are, you can move a character based on their movement, which is depicted there. So it's a 3, a 3, and a 3. And of these 3 characters, only Master Feng can actually go through monsters because they have the wings on their boots. Otherwise, you can easily go through your friendly characters. So if I did a movement, I can go 1, 2, 3. It's a free action. If you move on to Fortune, you can pick it up and put it in your pockets as long as you have capacity. The other thing you can do is you can attack with a character. Based on what your range is, he has a range of 1, and a range of 2. So right now he wouldn't be able to attack because he's not within range. But an example of an attack is to say he is here against the Basilisk. He will say he will attack. He's going to look at what his attack is. He's going to be rolling 2 bones, one of which is always the gold bone, like so. And in this instance, seeing as I'm orange, if I had been here, I would grab an extra bone, I would shake them, and I'd scry them. I am then going to count the dots. There is 2, so I would then do 2 damage to the creature. Whenever you target a creature with an effect or an attack, you are going to take a fame token. If this creature had coins in its pocket, I could then take one of the coins out of their pocket and place it somewhere within range of me, even under myself, to be able to grab if I had room in my pockets. The Barbarian doesn't, so I could in theory take that coin and even put it over here for one of my other adventurers to come and get. The third option you have is activating the character ability. So if we look at the Barbarian, this is Rage. This character scries an additional bone when it attacks this turn. So had I had actions available before I attacked the Basilisk, I could have had my normal 2, the 1 for being in this room. Then if I raged, I would have grabbed a 4th bone, scrying them all. You are going to take your 3 actions. You are then going to look at the Monster Master board. If there is a monster in the spot of your color, which in this instance there's not because there is not an orange one, then nothing happens. However, if there is a monster, that monster will then activate, moving towards you, activating ability, and attacking. You're going to go, the monster will go. The next player will go, their monster will go, until it gets to the Monster Master, in which instance they are going to activate the Demon King. So if you are playing with a Monster Master character, someone controlling it, they are going to make all the decisions. If you are not and you're playing as automated, what is going to happen is when the monster needs to attack, you are going to roll a die, and then based on where they are here, that is going to be what they're going to attack. It's going to be on a 1, 2, and 3, or with a 4, 5, and 6, it's going to scry an extra bone. So based on what it rolls for initiative, it is going to then move towards that character, attacking them, and then activating its ability. Briefly, I'm going to go over what you can spend your fortune on. You can spend 1 fortune. When you spend it, you just put it to an uncharged side. It will recharge at the beginning of the round, but you can spend 1 to refresh the tavern row. You can also spend 1 to use the ability of a character in the tavern row. That is, however, one of your actions. You can spend 2 to recruit a adventurer to your party, because as you go on, your adventurers will die, so if you need to replace one, you can spend 2 to bring one in. You can spend 1 to shift a character you control 1 hex in any direction, so I could spend it just to shift him 1. And then if you're playing with the potions, you can spend 1 to refresh the apothecary with up to 3 new potions. You can spend the amount that it costs to buy them. One thing I will mention, when you refresh the tavern, you don't discard them. When you refresh it, you choose how many you want to do, and you would just draw the top card saying, I want to leave that barbarian, and then that would be the refresh action. Finally, your fame tokens, you can spend 2 of these to make one of your characters famous. You can choose which character, and once they are famous, you would then be activating it where they have this always active ability. For the barbarian's case is whenever this character activates ability, it gains skulk until the end of its next turn. So if he was famous, that would be into effect. The way you denote that is you grab their character token. As I said earlier, you put the smooth side up. When they become famous, you are going to flip that over and put it on its ridge side, and that is going to denote that it is now famous. The monsters themselves will also be gaining fame tokens and can become famous, as they also have famous abilities, because don't forget, at some point that could also be being controlled by an actual player. As you're going through the game, you'll be gaining status effects. I'll let you discover all those on your own. I'm not going to go through all of those. But what happens is, say my barbarian gets defeated. When a character gets defeated, you are going to give their ring back to their controlling player. They're going to get their character discarded, and then you're going to turn this face up and put it on one of the summoning portals to show the Dragon King is on his way to winning. The Dragon King wins when all 6 are defeated. The heroes are going to defeat when they defeat the Dragon King. The way to make that easier, because right now he has 2 shields, he cannot be affected by magic or effects, and he does regenerate, is when you defeat a monster, say I defeat them, I would put them on the top slot. And then as you're putting more down, you are sealing it up, which means these will no longer be available to him. So because sealing that, he will not have 2 shield tokens going forward. But you are going to go until either you've defeated the Dragon King, or he has sealed or contaminated all 6 summoning gates by killing 6 adventurers. That is the bare bones of the game. As I said, you will discover a lot more as you play and discover the abilities and all of the status effects and so forth. I just want to kind of give you an idea of how the game kind of plays. Really quick, let me kind of show you all of these spells so you can get an idea of kind of how they all are. Noxious Gas, Rallying Call. So when you get a spell, you are just going to have it available, use it once, and then you can discard it. And as you'll notice, like this one is 2 characters of your choice become famous. So I like that they have the little symbol there to kind of give you an idea of what it pertains to. So there's Meteor Shower, Scry 3 Bones, Telekinetic Shove, Sprouting Vines, Charged Up, Forget Me Not. Then you have this Quicken, Teleport, Activate the Spring, Inspiring Song, Hallucinatory Terrain, Shielding Song, then Air of Vitality. One thing I will go back and mention is for the Monster Master's turn, when you activate the Demon King, or the Dragon King, so whenever it's the end of their turn, or once they defeat an adventurer, they're going to draw more monsters and add them to the areas where there are people attacking them. If there's already a monster there, they'll put it face down, and then once that monster needs to activate, it'll become face up, go on the board, and then take its turn as normal. Alrighty, so let's get into what I think of this. So there you have what's inside, kind of how it plays. I hope now you have a good idea of kind of, what the components are, how they pertain, and how the game kind of maneuvers around. So let's get into what I think of it. So with this one, this is a really cool, in my opinion, strategy dungeon crawler. Because you're typically used to in these dungeon crawlers, you're the adventurers, you go, and then the boss monster has like all these little speed bumps in essence that you're just going to plow through. But not in this one because the monsters are set at the same level as the Dragon King. So you do have to have more strategy where you're not just going to be running through the monsters. Also, it is going to be more tactical. You can't just run up and start smacking it because those monsters are going to smack you back. And a lot of them have abilities that target like everyone. So it's not just going to be the person that it's targeting, but it might be like one character from each party within range becomes dazed or becomes charmed. So you're going to want to try and not gang up on one because then it's just going to just keep blanketing you with all these status effects. Also, that Dragon King, it keeps regenerating and it keeps getting those shields. So you don't want to necessarily focus right away on him. You do need to knock out some of his minions in essence to start weakening him, bringing him down. So it isn't just a boss battler of just go and destroy the boss because he's going to keep regenerating. He's going to keep getting bigger and badder and meaner, and then helping his minions regenerate, because once he's done regenerating, it carries over to the other minions. That's stuff that you can discover as you delve more into this game and the rules at that Kickstarter link. So the minis look really cool. I enjoy the little dials on them and on the character tokens. That's a real neat way, I feel, to denote which characters are yours. It also adds a pop of color to the board, and being able to spin them around, flipping it over so you can tell what's famous. So everything's there at a brief glance on the board is always very helpful when it comes to dungeon crawlers. You're not having to go and consult like tables and charts or other cards. It's like, how much does he have? That much? All right, I'm going to smack him. The fact that, you just hit, so you're not having these, combative rolls of, now I have to roll my damage to their armor and subtract this and subtract that. It is straightforward, so it can keep that pace of play moving, going forward, going quick. Using your fortune to be able to use the abilities of the tavern, because sometimes you might be like, well, my party's full, but look, that really cool character came out. So being able to just use that to be able to do that ability is just a really neat way of being able to use stuff outside of your board to bring into the game. And with those fortune coins recharging every turn, that takes away that that tight decision space of, do I really want to use it now because I might want to save it, and then you don't end up using it and then it goes to waste. This one is, just use it. So you're getting that feel of being that big, powerful adventurer, not having to conserve your abilities. You have all this epicness that you can do, and that ties into that strategy of, making sure you're getting those coins, because those coins are going to help you. Because shifting that one hex might be able to push you just out of range of that monster when they activate, so now you're not going to be charmed and you can run in. Or by shifting one person over, now they're in range, now they can do their attack. So you're really going to want to be able to make sure that you get those coins to be able to utilize them to trigger more things and optimize where you're going to be. I also enjoy there's a diverse cast of characters for those adventurers that all have kind of different abilities that kind of pertain to them. And then not only them, but the leaders are kind of beefed up versions of those adventurers. So if you do want to try and prioritize one type of party, get the rogue party with that rogue leader. Now everyone's skulking around, which means they can't be attacked, so you're going to be kind of maneuvering around and just getting around all the villains and then trying to do the damage that way where you're not being able to be attacked. So you can have those that flavor text in there. You can have that thematic element of, you have the rogue party going in, then you have the barbarians just running forward and smashing in faces, so that you can have a leader and that party just really kind of ties everything together in a really cool way with a nice little bow in there. I am not going to sugarcoat this though. This is going to be a tough game if you do not play it strategically. We went in the first time, weren't playing strategically, and we got wiped out. We might have had a little bit of a bad draw because there's two of the monsters that have a 4 attack, and both of those came out and focused on me, so I was getting smacked with 4 to 5 scrying bones at a time. But you have to be prepared for that. as I said, there are no speed bumps here. So when you do fight those minions, you're going to have to make sure you're smacking them pretty good. You're going to want to utilize those coins. You're going to want to choose which rooms you want to go to at the right point. You're going to want to make sure that you're kind of staying away, like hitting, moving, ducking, swaying, such forth and so on. So I will say that this is not going to be one of these easy just plow through. Because don't forget, there's a chance that there's a player playing that Monster Master. So how enjoyable is it going to be for them if they have to just sit there and just have you smacking them and they're like, well, this isn't fun at all. So the way they balance that to where the Monster Master doesn't have this whole party of adventurers that can come at it, but it does have the monsters that are a bit more powerful to try and take out these adventurers. So there is that really nice balance there that can be tough, so it is going to require you to really think things through and maneuver things. And by doing that, you also need to realize your party is going to be expendable. Do not expect your initial party of 3 to be what is going to be leaving that game. People are going to die. It's going to happen. But that's cool because you have a whole tavern of adventurers to grab through. So maybe this person no longer fits the strategy because the monsters are spread out, so now you got to try and get around more. All right, well, now I'm going to be grabbing these people who can move quicker and strike better as opposed to the slow, plodding smackers. So just that ability to have to change on the fly. And as for the 2-player experience with it, as we are wont to look at, having that automated monster plays pretty easy. It's literally roll a die, that's who he's going to go after. Any other decisions are made by the person that's coming after it. So it does allow you a little bit of leeway of like, well, he can target any 3 of these. Well, this one's not going to bother me too much next turn, so I'm going to focus on that one. So it does kind of add that little bit of ease into it with that automated one, but by no means do I mean that it is now easy. It just means that it may not be as vindictive as a person playing as that character. Or, if you don't want to do it that way, then you could just have one person Monster Master, one person that, and go at it that way. So it's one of those really nice games that can play in a large group without that Monster Master feeling bored all the time, because as I said, they're going to be choosing where the monsters are going to go, and if there's a monster targeting you, that they're going to go after yours. So that Monster Master is going to be constantly involved, not just sitting here waiting to do one big turn. It's going to be kind of going at you as the game's going on. And to wrap this up, I've talked a lot about the fortune, so let's just touch on that fame part, making your characters famous. That unlocks that big ability, but in order to do that, you need to either be getting in there and smacking them or being able to target them with effects and so forth to be able to get those fame tokens. And then one thing I didn't cover in that playthrough is once you are famous, then anyone can start spending those fame tokens to help you re-scry those bones. So if you're not getting the damage you need to do, they can start helping you try and roll and take out those baddies by being famous. And those famous abilities can be fairly powerful. Like that barbarian that I showed you. Is his ability already lets him scry a bone. Cool, so now when we do that, if he's famous, he now skulks, which means he can't be targeted or attacked. Which means that he's going in, he's hitting for a lot of damage, and now he's not going to be hit. He could get another ability hit on or put on him, like Charmed or something that won't allow him to attack, but he himself cannot be attacked, so he could be in there just walloping every turn. So just being able to manage, making them famous, but then hoping that that famousness doesn't go away right away by them being killed. So once you get that powerful character, try and maneuver them around and maybe have them be your focal point. So just that whole, like I said, element of strategy that you're going to need to do about when you want to move people, which ones do you want to get famous, is there something that you can get that could trigger something else. The one leader, when he becomes famous, it makes other people easier to become famous where it only costs 1. So you'll really keep him in the shadows and just get him famous so you can just start popping out famous people as soon as they come out. Bam, now you're famous. Bam, now you're famous. Bam, now you're famous. So it's going in that regards. So again, if any of this sounded like something that you enjoy or even piques your interest, go ahead and head down below and click that link, check out the Kickstarter, and think about backing it today. As I said, everything before was a brief how to play. As you've seen, I've touched on elements that I didn't really cover in that playthrough, as there is some kind of not necessarily edge cases, but kind of smaller stuff that this thing can do and this thing can do in relation to that. But I'll have you discover that all on your own. And while you're down hitting that link, you could also please go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like this video, ring the bell to be alerted as we release more videos, and then maybe even share this so more people can hear about Fame and Fortune, especially if it's a game that you think that they would like. So, until next time, do it for the fame, do it for the fortune.